You know that feeling when you realize the person you've sacrificed everything for sees you as nothing more than a walking checkbook? When my sister laughed and called me her best ATM the night before her wedding, the $150,000 wedding I paid for, I didn't cry. I pulled out my phone, started recording, and by sunrise, I had cancelled everything. The venue, the flowers, the cake, all of it. Gone. When 200 guests showed up to empty halls and locked doors, I was there waiting with that recording, ready to play it for everyone. But before you judge me, you need to understand how I became the family doormat. This is the story of the golden child and the forgotten daughter, and trust me, the revenge gets so much sweeter. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Sloan, I'm 28 years old, and until recently, I thought being a good sister meant setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. I work as a middle school English teacher in Seattle. It's not glamorous. I live in a modest one-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood that's up and coming, which is realtor speak for you can still afford it. I drive a 10-year-old Honda, I meal prep on Sundays, and my idea of a splurge is buying the name brand cereal instead of the store brand. I'm careful with money because I had to be. Because unlike my sister Piper, I didn't have a safety net. Let me take you back so you understand how we got here. Our parents divorced when I was 12 and Piper was 8. It wasn't a clean break. Mom remarried within a year to Richard, this wealthy tech executive who lived in a waterfront house and drove cars that cost more than most people's annual salary. Richard had no kids of his own and apparently wanted to play dad to exactly one child. He chose Piper. I'm not being dramatic. He literally told my mom he'd only agreed to marry her if the older one stayed with dad. I remember standing at the top of the stairs, listening to them argue about it. Mom didn't fight very hard. So Piper went with Mom to the waterfront mansion, and I stayed with Dad in our cramped apartment. Dad was a good man, but he was struggling. He worked 2 jobs and still barely made rent. By the time I was 16, I was working weekends at a coffee shop and evenings babysitting, slipping money into the utility jar when I thought he wasn't looking. Meanwhile, Piper was posting Instagram photos of her sweet 16 party on a yacht. I didn't go. I wasn't invited. This became our pattern. Piper got everything: the nice clothes, the brand new car at 16, the expensive summer camps, the college fund. I got nothing, and I was expected to be grateful I wasn't a burden. When I graduated high school with a full academic scholarship to state college, I was so proud. It meant I could actually build something for myself. My graduation was on a Saturday afternoon. Mom, Richard, and Piper didn't come. Piper had a pageant 3 hours away, some local beauty competition that she didn't even place in. But it was crucial for her modeling portfolio according to Mom. I told myself it was fine. I told myself a lot of things were fine over the years. College was hard. I worked full-time while carrying a full course load. I lived off ramen and library coffee. Meanwhile, Piper's Instagram showed her spring breaks in Cabo, her sorority formal dresses, her surprise Mercedes from Richard for getting AC average. When I graduated summa cum laude at 22, I invited everyone to the ceremony. Piper texted me the morning of "Can't make it, bad spray 10 emergency, you understand." I stood there in my cap and gown, scanning the crowd for family, and only saw Dad. He was crying. I pretended it was enough. But here's the thing about being the forgotten child: you become desperate for crumbs of affection. When I was 25, Piper called me crying about needing $8,000 for a business investment. She said she was starting an online boutique and this was her chance to finally be independent. I had been saving for a down payment on a condo, but I gave her the money. All of it. You know what that business investment turned out to be? Designer handbags for Instagram photos. She never paid me back. When I gently asked about it 6 months later, she said, "Oh my God, Sloan, you're so petty." It was a gift. I swallowed it. I always swallowed it. Then, 8 months ago, Piper met Dominic at some charity gala where she was taking photos for content. Dominic was 29, worked in finance, and talked constantly about networking and optics and building the right image. He wore suits that probably cost more than my monthly salary and had this way of looking through people he deemed unimportant. The first time I met him was at a family dinner. I was telling Dad about getting Teacher of the Year at my school when Dominic's phone rang. He answered it, mid-sentence. Talked for 5 minutes while I sat there, mouth half open, story unfinished. When he hung up, he didn't apologize. He just turned to Piper and continued their conversation about some restaurant opening. I should have seen it then. The way he introduced Piper to people as my influencer fiancée but introduced me as just Piper's sister. Never my name, never my profession, just an appendage to Piper's identity. 3 months into their relationship, Piper showed up at my apartment with a ring on her finger and tears in her eyes. I was grading papers, exhausted from a long week, but I let her in. She collapsed on my second-hand couch and told me that Richard had cut her off. Apparently, she'd racked up $70,000 in credit card debt, and Richard was forcing her to face consequences for once in her life. He refused to pay for a wedding. "You're the only one who's ever really been there for me," Piper said, mascara running down her perfect face. "I know we haven't always been close, but you're my sister. This wedding is my dream, Sloane. It's the one day I get to feel special, to feel like a princess. I've never had what you have: a degree, a stable job, real independence. Let me have this one thing." I remember sitting there, thinking about how absurd it was. She'd never had what I have. She had everything. But that desperate, pathetic part of me that still wanted to be loved by my family, that part spoke louder. I thought maybe if I did this, if I gave her this one perfect day, she'd finally see me as more than an obligation. Maybe we'd finally be real sisters. So I said yes. I agreed to fund the entire wedding. $150,000. Let me put that in perspective for you. That was my entire savings account, plus a personal loan I had to take out at a frankly humiliating interest rate. That was 5 years of scrimping, of saying no to vacations, of driving a car that needed duct tape to hold the side mirror on. Gone. For Piper's one perfect day. The next 6 months were a masterclass in humiliation. Every Sunday, I'd drive to Mom and Richard's house for wedding planning sessions. I'd sit at their marble kitchen island while Piper flipped through magazines and made decisions about flower arrangements that cost more than my monthly rent. She'd wave her hand dismissively at me whenever I suggested something affordable. "Sloane, this is my day. Stop being so cheap." Mom would nod along, sipping her wine, occasionally reminding me that weddings are important and I should stop making Piper feel guilty. I took on summer tutoring jobs. I worked every weekend. I canceled the vacation I'd planned to visit my college roommate in Portland. When my car finally died and I had to Uber to work for 2 weeks until I could afford the repairs, Piper posted Instagram stories from her bachelorette trip to Nashville. 3 days, bottle service every night, all funded by Richard's guilt money. She didn't ask how I was getting to work. The dress shopping days burned into my memory. I'd saved up $300 for something decent to wear as maid of honor. I found this beautiful navy dress at Nordstrom Rack, on sale, perfect fit. I showed Piper a photo in our family group chat. Her response: "That's way too frumpy. Can you at least try to look presentable in my photos? This is going on Instagram, Sloane." Mom's reply was a thumbs up emoji to Piper's message. I bought a different dress. $500 I didn't have. But the worst part wasn't the money. It was the casual cruelty that I kept excusing. Like when Dominic asked why I was even in the bridal party. We were at the venue doing a walkthrough, and the wedding planner asked about the processional order. Dominic actually said, "Wait, she's walking down the aisle? Isn't the bridal party supposed to be for, like, people who actually matter?" He laughed like it was a joke. Piper giggled. The wedding planner looked uncomfortable. I stood there, cheeks burning, and said nothing. Or the time I suggested hosting the rehearsal dinner at my apartment to save money. I'd spent 2 days deep cleaning, planning a menu, trying to make my modest space look nice. When I mentioned it, Dominic literally laughed out loud. "We can't have the rehearsal dinner at wherever you live. What would people think?" Piper nodded enthusiastically. "He's right, Sloane. This wedding has a certain aesthetic. Your place doesn't fit the vibe." I told myself they were just stressed. Wedding planning is hard, right? They didn't mean it. I booked a private room at an upscale restaurant instead. Another $3,000 on my credit card. The family group chat was constant wedding updates. Piper's dress fittings, cake tastings, honeymoon planning. When I posted about receiving Teacher of the Year at my school, something I'd worked toward for 3 years, I got 2 emoji reactions. A heart from Dad and a thumbs up from an and I barely knew. That was it. But when Piper posted a photo of her manicure, the chat exploded with praise. I kept telling myself it would be worth it. That after the wedding, things would be different. We'd be closer. She'd appreciate what I'd sacrificed. I was so stupid. The night before the wedding, I checked into the hotel. Not the luxurious bridal suite I'd given that to Piper, naturally. I was in the smallest, cheapest room they had because that's what I could afford after funding everyone else's luxury. I'd brought a gift for Piper, something I'd spent weeks on. A leather journal filled with childhood photos I'd dug out of storage, letters I'd written about sisterhood and family and hope. Sentimental garbage in retrospect, but I genuinely thought she'd love it. At 11:30, I walked down the hallway toward the bridal suite. I could hear music and laughter inside. I raised my hand to knock, gift clutched in my other hand, when I heard Dominic's voice, loud and clear through the door. "Honestly, I can't wait until this is over and we can drop the act with your sister." I froze. My hand hovered an inch from the door. A male voice I didn't recognize, one of the groomsmen, laughed. "What do you mean, man?" "I mean, let's be real, babe." That was Dominic, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "Your sister is pathetic. A 28-year-old teacher, living in that sad little apartment. She's got nothing going for her. So why invite her at all?" The groomsman again. "Because she paid for everything, dumbass." More laughter. "The second this wedding is over, she's out. Way too embarrassing for our circle." My heart was pounding so hard I thought they might hear it through the door. I waited for Piper to defend me. To say something, anything. To tell him he was wrong. Instead, I heard my sister laugh. That bright, pretty laugh she used for Instagram videos. "Oh my God, you're so bad. But honestly, you're right. She's always been the boring one. My mom used to call her the placeholder child." The placeholder child. I heard Mom say that once, years ago, thought I'd imagined it. Apparently not. Piper continued, and her voice had that mean girl edge I'd heard her use with people she didn't like. "I'd just never thought she'd use it about me. Remember when she gave me that cringy speech about sisterhood last week? I literally wanted to die. Like, girl, you're here to write checks, not make toasts." A female voice, probably one of the bridesmaids, chimed in. "Wait, she's paying for all of this? The venue, the flowers, everything, every single cent." Piper sounded almost proud. "And she thinks we're going to be closer after this. It's honestly sad." I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and started recording. Dominic spoke again. "After the honeymoon, we're moving to Manhattan. Fresh start, new social circle. We'll just drift away from the Seattle people. Maybe a Christmas card if she's lucky." "I already told the photographer to keep her out of most shots," Piper said. "Can you imagine explaining to our future friends that that's my sister? The teacher who still shops at Target." More laughter. The sound of glasses clinking. "Here's to marrying up, baby," Dominic said. "And here's to stupid people who make it possible." To Sloane, Piper's voice rang out, crystal clear. The best ATM a girl could ask for. The recording captured every word, every laugh, every casual cruelty. I stood there for another 30 seconds, making sure I had it all, then walked numbly back down the hallway. I made it to my room, locked the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I played the recording back once, twice, 3 times. Each time, the words hit harder. Placeholder child, best ATM, too embarrassing for our circle. For maybe 10 minutes, I just sat there in the dark, staring at the wall. Then something shifted inside me. The hurt crystallized into something cold and sharp. I looked at the clock. 11:47. The wedding was at 3 tomorrow afternoon. I had time. I opened my laptop and pulled out the massive binder of contracts I'd been keeping. Every single vendor, every payment, every detail, all in my name. Sloane Martinez. My money, my contracts, my decision. I started with the venue. Called their emergency line and explained there'd been a serious situation and the wedding couldn't proceed. The manager was sympathetic, walked me through the cancellation clause. Because I was canceling more than 24 hours out, I was entitled to a 40% refund. $20,000 back in my account. Next was the caterer. Luxury company, $28,000 for 200 guests. The contract was clear: 70% refund for cancellations beyond 24 hours. $19,600 back. The woman on the phone was annoyed but professional. One by one, I worked through that list. The photographer, $7,500 back. The florist, $7,200. The band and DJ, $8,000. Each phone call felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The cake designer tried to talk me out of it, probably sensing the commission slipping away, but I was firm. $1,700 returned. Piper's designer dress was the painful one. Custom made, 3 fittings, $15,000. Only 20% refundable, but I took it anyway. $3,000. Every penny counted now. By 4:30 in the morning I was done. $82,000 recovered. I'd lost $68,000, which would haunt me for years, but somehow it felt worth it. I sent one final email to the venue. Please confirm no services will be rendered today and all staff has been notified. The response came at 5. Confirmed. The venue will be dark today. We're sorry for your situation. I packed my bags, checked out of the hotel at 6, and drove to a coffee shop across from the venue. I ordered the most expensive drink on the menu, some ridiculous caramel macchiato with extra shots, and settled in to wait. My phone started buzzing at 2:45. Mom first, then Piper, then Dominic. 17 calls in 10 minutes. I ignored them all, watching the parking lot fill with confused guests. People in formal wear, standing around, checking their phones. The venue doors were locked, windows dark. At 2:50, the Rolls-Royce pulled up. Piper stepped out in her $15,000 dress, and even from across the street, I could see her face collapse when she saw the empty venue. Dominic was on his phone immediately, pacing, gesturing wildly. I gave it 15 more minutes. Let them make their frantic calls, let them realize every vendor was cancelled. Then I walked across the street. Mom spotted my car first, came running over in her mother of the bride dress. What have you done? Do you have any idea how humiliated we are? Oh, I have some idea about humiliation, actually, I said calmly. Piper ran up, mascara already streaming. How could you? This is my wedding day, is it? Because from what I heard last night, this was just a party funded by your pathetic ATM sister. Her face went white. Dominic stepped forward, aggressive. You had no right. I had every right. My name, my money, my decision. A crowd had gathered. Both families, the wedding party, at least 50 guests. Perfect. I pulled out the Bluetooth speaker I'd brought and connected my phone. Since you're all here anyway, let me share what I heard last night. This is a recording from the bridal suite at 11:47 p.m. I hit play. Dominic's voice boomed across the parking lot. Your sister is pathetic, way too embarrassing for our circle. Piper's laughter. Her words about me being there to write checks, not make toasts. And finally, that toast. To Sloan, the best ATM a girl could ask for. The silence was deafening. Piper's bridesmaids looked away. Dominic's father stepped forward, disgusted. Is this how you talk about family who helps you? Mom tried to salvage it. Sloan, this is between you and your sister. You didn't have to know, Mom. You don't get to minimize this anymore. For 6 months, I funded their dream while they mocked me. And you all let it happen. You all made me feel like I was never enough. I turned to Dominic's parents. Also, you should know Dominic has a girlfriend in his hometown, Kenzie Bartlett. She thinks they're engaged too. I showed them the Instagram photos I'd found at 3 a.m. Dominic and another woman, recent posts, intimate captions. Dominic's mother gasped. You told us you broke up with Kenzie 2 years ago. Piper turned on him, screaming. The families started arguing. Guests were filming everything. It was beautiful chaos. I backed toward my car. You wanted me out of your new life? Congratulations. I'm gone. And I took my money with me. Good luck explaining this to your Instagram followers, Piper. I drove home, ordered Thai food, and blocked every single one of them. Over the next week, my phone exploded with messages I never read. I saw on social media that Piper tried posting a victim story, but the comments destroyed her. Dominic and Piper broke up within days. The Kenzie thing was absolutely true. 3 months later, I'm volunteering at a community center, teaching creative writing to kids who actually appreciate it. Mom sent a half-hearted apology, wanting me at Thanksgiving. I declined. I'm spending holidays with people who value me now. People ask if I regret it. Canceling the wedding, losing that money, blowing up my family. The only thing I regret is waiting so long to value myself. They wanted to erase me from their perfect picture, so I erased them from my life. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting out. And I got out with my dignity intact. So, was I wrong? Maybe. Was it petty? Absolutely. Was it worth every single penny? You tell me. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. Would you have done the same thing? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories of justice served cold. Thanks for listening, and remember, never let anyone treat you like an ATM. You're worth so much more than that.